Seth Meyers, late night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. President Biden was photographed yesterday standing in line to vote early in Delaware, or as he thought, to see Transformers. During his speech in New York on Sunday, former President Trump said, quote, "There's no place like Madison Square Garden." He's right. Very few NBA arenas could go over 50 years without seeing a championship. In a recent interview, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance declined to call Russian President Vladimir Putin an enemy and instead labeled him as an adversary. Well, that makes sense. A lot of people have an adversarial relationship with their boss. At a rally over the weekend in Michigan, Vice President Kamala Harris accused former President Trump of, quote, "looking in the mirror all the time." Really? I'd have guessed never. At a campaign event over the weekend in Pittsburgh, President Biden said that Elon Musk was a, quote, "illegal worker" when he first came to the U.S. Come on, that's not fair. He was never a worker. New York Mayor Eric Adams denied claims over the weekend that former President Trump is a fascist and said, quote, "we can all dial down the temperature," which serves as a reminder that no matter who wins on November 5th, Mayor Adams is going to need a pardon. I think they're both great. A church in England mistakenly showed pornography for a few seconds during a sing-along for grade school kids, and right there on the spot, some of the tenors became baritones. Health officials in Wisconsin have issued a warning that pizza purchased at Famous Yeti's Pizza may have been contaminated with THC, though if you're headed to Famous Yeti's Pizza, you're probably already contaminated with THC. Officials have announced that Central Park is currently experiencing peak fall colors. It's my favorite time of the year to gaze up at the trees and get blindsided by a German family on rental bikes. And finally, McDonald's recently announced that its Quarter Pounder is back on the menu after health officials ruled out beef as the source of an E. coli outbreak. They've also managed to rule out chicken as the source of McNuggets. And that was a monologue, everybody. We're off. Everybody got a great show for tonight. She's the host of Deadline White House Shut right here in this building weekdays at 4 on MSNBC. Our friend Nicole Wallace will be here, everybody. So she's a talented actress, you know, from Glow and Nurse Jackie. She currently stars in 3 Women with new episodes premiering Friday on Starz. Betty Gilpin will be joining us, everybody. And he's a fantastic and very funny actor who stars as Joel in Somebody Somewhere Sundays on HBO and Max. Jeff Hiller is on the show tonight, everybody. Also, a new episode of The Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast, episode 31, The Mirror. Check that out wherever you get your podcast. Moving on. Well, you guys, the election is now only 1 week away. People everywhere, they're on edge, checking the polls, making their voting plans, and that includes my writers. You know, my writers write hundreds of jokes every day just to get the 10 or 12 we use in the monologue, and honestly, a lot of those jokes are just not good. Sometimes I think they throw in a few stinkers on purpose just to fill the page and meet the assignment, you know? Just because democracy is hanging in the balance, that doesn't mean we can learn to tolerate laziness, which means it's time for another surprise inspection. So here's how this works. I'm going to read some real jokes really submitted by my writers. Some are dumb, some are offensive, some are just insane. Most importantly, my writers don't know we're doing this, and because they don't watch the show, they'll never know. So let's get started. A portion of a highway in California was temporarily closed recently after a truck spilled hundreds of sweet potatoes across the road, causing a massive traffic jam. And we're off. And we're off and running. That was written by a man named Brian. Here's a photo. And we checked, he did still have the nerve to cash his check this week. Vice President Kamala Harris is reportedly planning to speak next week on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Women, can't keep them away from the mall. Now, before you... It was written by one of our female writers. Oh, why didn't I check that before I was so confident? That's Matt, everybody. He's going to be turning up a lot right now. And however mad you are at him at this moment, it's going to get worse. The New York Times has reportedly begun beta testing a new phrase-guessing game called Zorse. The way it works is you now waste so much time playing New York Times games that your spouse asks you for a divorce. Why didn't you write the mole joke? That's Allie, everybody. All right, here we go. This one might be the maddest I was today. So let's all just know we're going to be mad about it together. The Irish airline Aer Lingus has announced that it will offer direct flights between Dublin and Nashville. Until now, the only airline that flew that route was Airlatio. You're confused. You're confused, or maybe you're a little sad, or maybe you get it and the only human reaction to it is silence. What my friend here did was he, yeah, that's right. More of that, please. He was like, Aer Lingus, that's the back half of cunnilingus, and that means the back half of fellatio would be Airlatio. But the crazy thing is, he left in the setup of like Nashville and Dublin, which has nothing to do with either of those oral sex acts. And yeah, it's just not good. The fast food chain McDonald's said yesterday that 20% of its locations have temporarily stopped selling Quarter Pounders as a precautionary measure amid an E. coli outbreak. The other 80% said YOLO. That's Brian. He, of the yam joke, he's serving up hot food-based comedy today. During an interview yesterday on Howard Stern's radio show, Vice President Kamala Harris said she usually eats a bowl of Raisin Bran or Special K for breakfast, while Trump's favorite cereal is cereal sexual assault. Oh, looks like you're Airlatio Silver now. This got an upgrade. Dolly Parton has announced that she will donate $1 million to victims of Hurricane Helene, or as she calls it, Helene, Helene. Helene, do you get it or keep going? Oh. How quickly we misplay our advantage. Researchers in South Africa believe they found the world's oldest termite mound, which is 34,000 years old, or as it's described in the Zillow listing, pre-war. Qantas Airways has issued an apology after a flight crew mistakenly played an explicit R-rated movie on all of the aircraft's screens. Even worse, it was the safety video. Hot day for Matt. Now, the next one is from a writer of ours named Mike Scollins. If you've watched Surprise Inspection before, you know he writes the worst ones. I'm just saying that we've been told sort of by, the bigwigs at NBC, we should pre-warn the audience that a Scollins joke is coming. So now you know, buckle up, as they say. You know, if you're watching with, kids, right, I'd say turn it off. Today was National Chocolate Day, and bad news, kids, the dog celebrated. You guys went so long, I thought somebody had turned on a sound machine. Well, you know what? I bet Scollins will get him back with the next one. Former President Trump spoke. There he is, by the way. Can we show Scollins? Sorry, I forgot to show the picture of Scollins there. Scollins wears tank tops to work. I think you probably would have guessed that based on the joke. And we got another Scollins coming. Former President Trump spoke last week at the Al Smith Memorial Foundation dinner, which raises funds for Catholic charities. And said that Vice President Kamala Harris has, quote, the mental faculties of a child. Said Priest, yeah, but less hot. You're all like, nothing's gonna be worse than that dog joke. Oh. The makers of Goldfish, is this the last one? This is the last one. And, you know, we have to decide. We're like, what's the closer for surprise inspection? And I don't know if we got it right, but we'll find a guy. I will say it is our friend Brian who does, you know, he's been writing the food-based ones. And why, when you hear the punchline, I want you to remember that a man sat at a desk with a computer paid for by this company. He typed up this joke, and he could have gone like this. Nah. Didn't do that. So he looked at it, and he was like, yeah. And he put it in a document, and he put that document in an email, and he sent it to the people who decided to hire him. So the joke itself, you're not going to enjoy, but I think when you build that sort of scene that I've just asked you to build, I think it at least works as a drama. The makers of Goldfish have announced that they will temporarily change the name of the crackers to Chilean sea bass to give them a more adult-sounding name. In response, Cheez-Its is changing to the more adult-sounding Square Orange. What's going on? This is a place of business, man. No, I'm gonna leave it up. This has been Surprise Inspection. We'll be